Hey, good afternoon, Bronco Country. This is David with the Rocky Mountain Sports Report. Waiting on Matt. He's running a few minutes late. So go ahead, send us your comments, give us your shout outs to the Broncos. What a great game. It's always fun when the Broncos win the game, to celebrate. So come join us. Let us know your thoughts on the game. How you think Drew Lock did? Again, Denver wins 32, Carolina 27. It got interesting there at the end, but Denver held off. And it looks like Matt is popping in now. So
Sorry, guys, got stuck in some traffic on the way to pick up some kiddos.
that is okay. All right. All right. So, Matt, I was just going over, it's always fun to do these shows when the Broncos win.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
Not a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll get a lot of fan interaction. If you're in here, if you're watching, shout out your names, and also just give us your shout outs to the Broncos. It was a great game. I mean, they played a much better game than I thought, especially along that offensive line.
Yeah, man. It was a great game. A lot of key players stepped up. Anderson stepped up. Moody looked fantastic for his first game as a pro. He was pulling. There was that one mishap he had where him and Kush got their feet tangled up. But for a Rook to come in and play as well as he did, I mean, I was left pretty impressed. We didn't see him get bullied back as much as we see some of our other guards. Schlottman did that role for a while. We seen him get bullied back. Graham's
Right.
been having a hard time this year. He's been getting like kind of bullied back. So yeah, I was really impressed with Moody. I'll give kudos to Drew for sure as well. I mean, we still seen some inconsistencies, but I'm not going to harp on him. It was a good game plan. It got him fluid. It built fluidity. Once we established that fluidity, it was kind of lights out from there on.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed, and Drew talked about this in his post-game press conference, the plan was go in there and for him to check down, and that has been drilled into his head, he said, by Shermer, by Shula. Even Rip has been on him to, hey, take the check downs, get into the flow of the game, and later in the game, when those deep routes are there, you're going to hit them. And he did, and that's exactly what he did. 21 of 27, 70, almost 78% completion rate.
Yeah.
13 of his 21 completions went to tight ends and running backs, so he utilized them very well. Did a great job there, and him and Hamler, him and Hamler just connected on two beautiful passes. So got this one here that it was a complete game, and it definitely was a complete game.
Yeah, it really the screenplays and the behind the line of scrimmage plays really got Drew feeling comfortable. We seen him still have a little bit of consistency issues with that like weird backwards pass to Judy towards the close of the first half. But I mean, aside from that, I mean, he looked comfortable. That was the big thing. We haven't seen Drew look comfortable. This was the first time where we in a while since we've seen him look comfortable. And you know what? Surprisingly, it was something that I don't think you or I or really anyone else predicted. We thought maybe he would feel more comfortable once he learned how to trust the pocket, but the bootleg seemed to really help him ease into things.
Yeah, and as I was watching this game and watching him progress, and I think part of the problem is everybody wants Drew Lock to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. Patrick Mahomes isn't perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. They misread sometimes. They throw bad passes. And those are things we're going to have to live with. But if Lock can continue the way he's going, even in the Kansas City game, he played well. I mean, with the exception of the
interceptions.
I mean, but everybody throws interceptions. I mean, look what Russell Wilson's doing. The guy's just has had a horrible stretch, the last 5 games, 13 interceptions.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens, and that's what we need to realize here is it happens. I think Drew Lock is finally, hopefully starting to find a groove. I think over the last, probably in the Dolphins game, he looked decent at times. He looked decent in Kansas City, but today, I mean, in my opinion, was his breakout game as a NFL quarterback
for this season, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So two things I want to point out, like, we'll let Drew live in this light right now. The one thing that I do want to highlight, though, is I highlight poor mechanics all the time.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, just because you have poor mechanics doesn't mean that you can't find a way to win games. We've seen that happen today. We've seen a game plan that played into Drew's flaws. We got him comfortable. We got him fluid in these short throws, and then what we did is with this game plan and these guys being in that 5 to 10 route, if I, just continually pounding it, we've seen a wide open zone. That means if Drew's going to rely on that arm strength instead of his footwork, he's going to have a big enough window. So it kind of avoids out some of the accuracy concern when you have that big of a window, because you found something that's gaining traction. It's going to catch the eye of the defense, bring those safeties down, bring those linebackers down to crash the line. And then you're going to find those deep pocket routes, like where we saw Hamler on the 9 route. It was wide open because there was no safety over the top. Hamler beat his man one-on-one. It doesn't take as much. It takes accuracy, but not as much accuracy just to lob it up towards the flat. I mean, towards the outside of the hashes. If you
well, and that's what you do sometimes. Locke even talked about that play in his post-game press conference, and he said, the way they first brought up their coverage, it looked like they were in zeros, and he said, now I got to pick which single coverage guy I want to hit, and then after that. They sort of dropped out of it, so he noticed that Judy wasn't going to be singled, so he gave Hamler the nod, and Hamler just run a great route, and Drew threw it up, and that's what you have to do. You got to throw it up and let your guy make a play under it. So
yeah. So when we weren't seeing these, prior to last week's game, what we've seen Drew every time he had a deep route, that was his option. So with the game plan that we did today, we had the check down, the slants, the 10 and ends, the 5 and ends. It was pounded into his head that he had to hit these routes. It opened up the route that he wanted to. Then with those 9 routes,
right.
Prior to this week, we've seen everyone in the league. My 5-year-old could have told you that Drew Lock wants to throw deep prior to this game. That's why we constantly seen a safety over the top. Drew was just rushing his throws. So if he has the time with these bootlegs, it seems like it made him feel more comfortable. It's allowing his time for the other routes to develop. He's hitting the underneaths. He's hitting the check downs and the flats. We're going to see, like I said, those, especially if the team's utilizing zone coverage. It's going to soften those zones as the safety comes down. It's going to leave more pockets for him to hit where he doesn't have to be as accurate. So it's playing into his flaws. So he is still having the really crappy mechanics, but there's more of room for error, more room for inaccuracy because he has such a wide open window. So if we can create those windows, he could be successful like we've seen today. It's just about creating the opportunity. Still, like I said in our chat, for me to feel comfortable, we need to see an 85% improvement in mechanics. You got to hit the 85%. That's not perfect, but that's where we see these successful quarterbacks that are right mid-tier sit at.
No, and I agree with you, and I'm not saying that, hey, look at this game, Drew Lock's fixed, because he's not. But Drew Lock, I think, showed that he has the capability. If he's in the right system, he can succeed. And if the game plan is structured around his strengths and his weaknesses, he can succeed. So
it's just about getting him in. For him, it may be more of a fluidity thing than a mechanics thing. If he can find the right fluid, like just get comfortable, and we can see it build consistently. He could prove a lot of us wrong. Like I said, we've seen some quarterbacks with some really crappy mechanics win games. I mean, we've seen, let's go back to the most recent one in Broncos history, Tim Tebow. Horrible mechanics, but we've seen him lead us to the playoffs. Let's hope Drew can be better than that.
Right.
But it doesn't, just because you have poor mechanics doesn't mean you can't win. I think that's where a lot of people get upset with me when I'm harping on Drew all the time. But I need to see those improve if we want to be that playoff contender.
Yeah, and I think we'll see that improvement, especially, as he continues to work, and hopefully the rest of the season he just goes and improves. Next week's going to be a test. Buffalo's coming to town. That's going to be
a dangerous defense.
Yeah, that is a very dangerous defense. So
it's nasty.
It's a Saturday game, so one less day of preparation. So.
Is it back east? I can't remember off the top of my head. It's here?
It's here. So
then that's good. We suck at
which
playing
is the
Buffalo.
good thing. Yeah, we definitely don't want to go there.
I think that's one of our worst records for an away team was against Buffalo in Buffalo. Even when they're like atrocious, we somehow find a way to lose to Buffalo.
Right. Yeah, we definitely do. So, but yeah, I mean, we need to see him continue to grow. But let's move off the lock for a while because I know
Yeah, there's some other
everybody
guys I
gets.
definitely want to highlight too.
Yeah, I know people get tired of Devontae Spencer. I mean, the punt return. I think that's the play that sparked this team.
Yeah, it changed the
Was that?
momentum.
Yeah, was that punt return, and then McManus comes out and shanks.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was a nice stopgap. Just like, oh, here we go, we're pumped, and then bam.
Yeah,
Speaking of McManus, I was listening to the radio on the way back here from getting the kids. Brandon McManus went to Twitter to express his frustrations, and his was Brandon McManus hashtag Brandon McManus sucked today. So he's beating himself up pretty bad for it.
hey, at least he has humor.
Yeah. So yeah, he'll
At
bounce
least he
back.
can joke about it.
Yeah, like
So,
you and I talk about for our offensive MVP, it probably is Brandon McManus this year so far, up until maybe today.
right.
So BMAC will come back. McMoney's
But
fine.
who expected Denver's offense to explode for 25 points today? I mean,
It-
really 26. I mean, the special teams got 6. But yeah, I mean, it was an offensive explosion, and I mean, good. Something that this offense needed to build a little bit of confidence going forward, I think.
Yeah, like you and I have talked about, and some of our colleagues have talked about on air on Wednesdays, and even on some of the post and pregame stuff. At this point, playoffs are very unlikely. It would
Right,
take a massive cataclysm of events to happen to get us in there. Right now, it's really just about establishing these foundations and building the chemistry. If Drew Lock is the quarterback that we're indeed going to roll with next year, this is where we need to see it. If we could see him build the chemistry that he had today with his receivers, if we could see him find a way to build his chemistry with his running backs. Today we seen him put Phil in a good spot to make several big, not huge chunk yards, but
right.
4 or 5 yards at a time on these little out routes from the flat. Out routes from the backfield. So we seen him put the ball there. It's just about building that chemistry, getting him comfortable. We haven't seen, like I said in the beginning of the show, we haven't seen him be comfortable. So if this bootleg is what's going to work for him, and we were doing bootlegs out of weird formations too. We did bootlegs under center, in the pistol, which is
Right.
where the quarterback's a little bit is about 2 yards deep from the center, and then even in shotgun, we've seen like an RPO bootleg. So we've seen some of that stuff. If that's where he's comfortable, if he's not comfortable stepping up in the pocket and he needs to roll to that right and have, a little bit of those happy feet we always talk about till he can settle in and plant his feet, let's see if that works. Let's see if he builds on it.
Yeah, and like we said, and we talked about the offensive line did a tremendous job. Drew Lock only sacked one time. I know he took some hits, a total of 5 QB hits, but I mean the offensive line did it, especially at being makeshift. Did a good job of protecting him today.
It was fantastic. So that's one of the groups I wanted to highlight. Calvin Anderson did a solid job for being thrown in there. Elijah Wilkins said he played probably his best game of the season. But that interior offensive line, aside from the blown assignment from Cushenberry to lead to the sack, was outstanding. We seen the gap plays. We seen Reisner and Cushenberry on pull plays get 10, 15 yards down the field. On that screen to Fumagalli, we seen them stay deep enough to where they could start to make the blocks, but they were aware to make sure they didn't get an illegal man downfield call, and they opened up the holes, man. Those are some hog mollies destroying some people on the way to the 3-yard line. Moody, same thing. The guy was just mauling people off the line, creating holes. He had a couple, rookie mistakes, mental mistakes, but for his first game back from about a year off, he played fantastic. Graham, man, you better be hoping that guaranteed money is sitting well in your pocket because Moody's here to stay, man.
Yeah, I believe he is, and like you said, for his first game, I mean, solid, very solid, and he's a mauler. He's a mauler, like you said, and he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up with the defensive tackles and stuff.
Yeah,
So
he's the definition of a true hog
yeah,
molly, is what we call him.
and for the longest time here, we said we got horrible offensive line problems, and you look at this offensive line going into next year, we could have a very solid offensive line. I think everyone's going to learn and be just a little bit better next year. And if Garrett Bowles plays up to what he's played this year, and then Reisner and Cush and Molly, get those 3 in the middle, I think we're going to have a very solid foundation to our offensive line going forward. And Denver right now, and I know they slid back. What were we before? Probably sitting around 7 or 8. Were we on draft picks? And so we're gonna slide down, and I don't have a problem sliding down if Drew Lock is going to be our answer, because now at that point we're going to be able to grab us a cornerback. Maybe Farley from Virginia Tech is there. I mean, that guy's just a beast. You got Surtain from Alabama, so that way, and I don't mind if we slide down to maybe closer around 15 and pick us up a cornerback there to help our secondary.
Yeah, so right now I just checked Tankathon, who's like super accurate at moving stuff around. Before the games this afternoon, after our win, we've dropped to 11. So that could drop us, depending on what happens here at these 2:00 games and later games tonight. It could move us around a little bit.
Right.
But after the win right now, we're at 11. Puts us in solid contention for some of those defensive backs you just said. Farley is climbing up draft boards like crazy. Him and Surtain are fighting for that number 1 spot. If they are both gone, there's like Mukaru from South Carolina, who's more of like a Justin Simmons type player.
Right.
He's a cornerback, but he's 6'4.5". He's huge. So definitely an outside guy. He plays a lot like I'm drawing a blank. He reminds me a lot of Cam Chancellor.
Okay.
That's who he reminds me of. He can hit too. So I mean, we could see him play more of a Jeremy Chin type role, the kind of like the guy from Carolina. He's there as potentially some defensive backs, but if as we drop closer to 15, offensive tackle becomes a reality right there. There's like Alex Leatherwood, Alabama. There's a couple other guys from. There's a guy out of Northwestern who I'm blanking on, but there's some solid offensive tackle position prospects there that could potentially come in and play right tackle.
Yeah, and I think I think that may be one area we have to address. Is right tackle, and who knows. A miracle happened with Bowles. Maybe a miracle happens with Elijah.
Elijah is also a free agent after the season, so we're gonna have to figure out some money to keep him.
And I just don't know, how much he commands on the open market, especially with the season he had this year. So we could maybe get him for cheap and then draft somebody, in a later round if there's someone that maybe second or third round. And if we don't want to blow a first round pick on a right tackle. So a lot of things to see where we fall in the draft, what we can talk. I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun in the off season talking draft and things we can do and stuff like that. So, hey, everybody out there, let us know what you guys thought of the game, where Denver excelled, some of the weaknesses you still saw. One thing I noticed, especially towards the end of the game, Matt, is Denver went into like this funky soft zone. It felt like, and Carolina just they found all the open spots in that zone. And like Alex said in the pregame show, if you give Bridgewater the chance, he's going to tear you apart.
Extremely smart quarterback. So many people don't understand how smart he is.
Right.
His mentality and quarterback just knowledge of the position outweighs his physical traits like leaps and bounds.
Oh, I agree, and it got nerve-wracking there at the end, especially when we had the ball. They kicked that ball and we ended up with it around
6-yard line.
6-yard line, and then I'm wondering why is Philip Lindsay in the game? But I heard afterwards that Gordon banged up his shoulder, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. And I think also another thing that had to do with it is Gordon's fumble history. Being backed up down there, do you trust him 100% to take the rock, and keep it secure and not put it on the ground down there where they can get another easy score to.
Yeah, especially if he was banged up too with the shoulder, and with that fumble history, they probably just felt it was safer to go with the sure-handed Lindsay, even though he has the great physicality, but he's not typically effective in a role like that when we're backed up against our goal line, or on the other opposing goal line. That's just not where Phil's effective. But That's just what it was. It probably was kind of a combo of both.
So
Gordon's been
and
playing lights out the last 2 weeks, man.
yeah, he has. Gordon has, and sort of making us say, okay, this is why Elway, paid him the money. And yeah, it's taken him a while, and I think it's taken this whole offense a while to just gel and come together. And you can see them slowly coming together. Injuries are sort of, catching us here and there. Fant goes out sick. Which they're thinking, the Broncos are thinking it's a case of food poisoning. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's nothing serious that's going
Yeah.
around.
So yeah, touching on that, they are keeping Noah Fant and Garrett Bowles in Carolina overnight for extensive COVID testing, just to make sure that
Right.
there's nothing wrong, staying within the NFL guidelines protocols, and hopefully keeping us out of trouble.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to, get them on a plane.
Yeah.
If they actually do have COVID, and next thing you know, you got an outbreak within the team. So it's a good thing to keep those two back and just be safe. Question though, where's Freeman?
I think Freeman's lost the. I wouldn't say trust. I think they just have lost the confidence in him. I mean, he comes in and he does okay in the short term, but we just haven't seen him gain the traction they had hoped for. And you got two really solid backs in Phil, and you got Melvin. When they're moving the ball, we can't expect to see him on the field if they're doing well. He is a third string back. Melvin kind of, even though Melvin and Phil are both more of like elusive type running backs, Freeman was supposed to be the power, but he's just kind of like this weird, soft power back in a sense. He's
Yeah,
not
and I thought, especially when we're down there on the 6 yard line at the end of the game, if you can't bring Gordon in, bring Freeman in at least. Let him pound the ball in the middle. I think he has a little more than Lindsey does to offer there.
Yeah.
So
He's definitely he's the bigger back. One thing plays into it. We're looking back at our draft history of picking later round backs.
Right.
It just doesn't for Elway just doesn't typically translate well. We just misutilize them. I don't understand why. Like we look at Devontae Booker, third round pick out of Utah a few years ago. He's playing great for the Raiders now. We never used him here. Never, hardly ever.
And it's the same thing with Freeman, and I'm afraid when Freeman leaves, he's going to go somewhere else, and he's going to have a decent career. I'm not going to say he's going to break out and be excellent, but we have misused running backs here, in my opinion. So I think we try to force them into something that they are not.
He was never typically a power back at Oregon. He actually was he has the most carries in the for the U of O or Oregon University's history. He has the most carries, and I think he might have the most. Or he's in the top 5 for all-purpose yards for like the school.
Right.
But where he was actually a pretty dominant threat was in the receiving game.
Right.
Yeah, he's a big boy, but he has those soft hands that a lot of teams could have.
So, and I didn't see him in the game once, and I don't even think he got on the field today. So here's a one here too, and any news from the NFL on our punishment, and I'm not sure exactly what this is referring to.
I believe
it's referring to the quarterback COVID thing.
Yeah, I have not seen anything regarding that. When Las Vegas got in trouble for it a couple. Well, I guess it's been over a month. I would say it's close to 2 months ago now. It did take them about 2 to 3 weeks to dish out the punishment.
Right. Yeah, and I think that'll be coming down. All right. Thanks, Dennis, for clarifying that. Yes, it is for the COVID. But, yeah, I agree that, the NFL moves slow in these things. And I think the reason it's taking a little longer here, too, is because of the investigation that they're doing, just because, it seems like Denver was trying to hide something. It seems like, from the information that we've received and stuff that's leaked out in the media and things like that, it's like Denver wasn't forthcoming with everything, and maybe that's why the league is taking a closer look and taking a little longer to make a determination on this one.
Yeah, the other thing we could potentially are, when the NFL teams to take longer, sometimes it means the punishment's actually going to be less severe than what initially thought. So, it could be both sides. We don't really know.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily our first offense, but it was. The NFL may not want to continue to bash these teams over things that are somewhat uncontrollable. It is an illness. It's a virus. It's around the world. So let's see where it goes. I'm hoping that it's a less severe punishment than what we initially thought, but it's really up in the air. So
Right. Yeah.
let's say hope and prayer.
Yeah, and this user says they did find him in house, which they did, and that was Denver's own internal doing. The NFL can still impose their, penalties if they want or if they wish, and maybe they'll look at what the Broncos did and said this is satisfactory, and we're not going to do anything else. Just don't do it again, and we're going to come down on you a little harder. So who knows what's going to happen here? So it's just a waiting game now to find out what the NFL is going to say.
Yeah, it really just comes down to it is because technically this is our second COVID infraction. It's just
Yes.
this is the first one with players, first one was more with coaches. So I think they're just trying to find like a level playing field of like for the punishment. They don't want to have these extreme repercussions for like I said, for something that's not completely controllable. Um, there's so many factors into it. So let's just see where it goes. I still do think it will be a significant fine. I would say at least 250,000 to 500,000 for the team.
Yeah, and I'm thinking 500 for the team because that's been the NFL standard. Because of second infractions has usually been 500,000 for the team. So I would expect something like that. So
NFL could also be just contemplating if they want to punish the players as well.
Right, correct. They could be. So Dennis has a question: has Fumagalli passed Bud on the roster? I think he has. I think Jake is pretty much done here in Denver. So
I think speaking of Jake Butt, I would say his career is probably done. Every season he's found his way into the IR.
Right.
He's on IR right now. That's why we have Fumagalli on the roster right now. The guy, just can't stay healthy.
And it's sad, a guy comes out, has a promising college career. You think he's going to talent. And sometimes, the injury bug just gets you and you can't get past it. So, it comes to a point in your life where you just say, enough's enough. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Get enough. Get in there. Get some. Start off as a busy. Get in there. Get coaching, man.
Right. So, yeah. But Fumagalli he had a good game today coming in for him and Vanette both filled in well with Fant going out so early. So I think they did well. One thing I noticed that the tight ends were doing is when Drew Lock was rolling, they were rolling with him, which gave him a lot easier target to hit when he had to roll to the right and hit these short routes. So it made things a lot easier for him. So instead of him trying to force it 20 yards, 15, 20 yards down the field and hit, a wide receiver that's pinned up against the sideline by a defensive back, these tight ends were just, dragging across the field and were open for like 6-7 yard gains. And hey, we'll take those all day long. They move you down the field.
Keeps you in third and short. So
right.
The really great thing that the tight ends were doing too. So even on they, like you said, they were coming across from the opposite side doing the drag routes. But we also seen them set the edge and then help the tackle get established in release. And then that same thing, they'll drift off into the flat for that 5 or 7 yard. So they really helped out the tackles too by helping them just give that little chip block really does knock a defender off of his game in a sense. So it's all about creating opportunities, and that's what they did. Set the edge, dragged out into the flats, and 5-7 yards, chipping away.
This is a good question by Dennis. Excuse me. Why didn't we do bootleg sooner in the season? I think, one, it's getting used to what your players' skills are, especially being that you didn't have OTAs to learn these things. And I also think a little bit of it was maybe stubbornness, on the offensive coordinator saying, no, I'm going to run my system. You're going to learn to run my system. And maybe someone has finally said to him, figure out how we can make Locke a better player, and adjust your play calling and your system to work with him. And I think that's why we may have seen more of these bootlegs today, these designed bootlegs and rollouts, instead of him just running for his life.
So that I don't know why. I can't give you an honest answer because bootlegs were typically part of Shermer's offense out in New York. It's part of the West Coast offense that we've been running for quite some time. The only thing I can relate back to is last year when we started to try to do the bootlegs, and even early this year when Drew's under center, he was struggling. He just couldn't. He would get the the play action fake, and then it would just be either poor protection or he
Right.
just launched the ball 40 yards down the field.
and that
So
and that's part of the thing of a offensive coordinator, you know, trying to make fit his quarterback into his system instead of trying to fit the system around your quarterback, because Drew Lock doesn't play under center. He didn't play under center in college, you know, and so finally they've really moved him a lot back into the shotgun, and I think he's been a lot more comfortable. He's a lot more comfortable back there now. Uh,
yeah, it buys in that extra couple
I think
seconds.
he sees the field better from back there as well.
Yeah, it buys in that extra couple of seconds. He knows
Hmm.
that he has an outlet if he needs it. So, like I said, we were running like a odd version of a bootleg and shotgun, so it would be more like an RPO and drift.
Right.
He would see that the run, he had the option to hand it off if he need to, keep it back, and then just drift to his right where he's comfortable. Buys him that extra time. Um, and then with the addition of that tight end set and the chip block to help the tackle get set, it just bought him enough time to really pick apart the defense in that um, 5 to 7 yard range. That's what
Right.
we've been preaching for 2 weeks now. Hit the 5 to 7. Quarterbacks are built in the 5 to 7 range.
Right. So 4 more targets again for Judy this week. Do we see any cryptic messages, or is it
I
all
don't.
good? Or is it all good because we won?
I think it's probably a mixture of both. I mean, I do think he probably got sat down and was talked to by probably his position coach, or who knows, maybe
Right.
even Vic handled it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing, I mean, they tried to incorporate him into the game plan. They moved him around from just being that outside guy, which helped.
Hmm.
We seen him line up on the inside, and that's where he's more comfortable. Um, he didn't have to be the number one receiver all the time. We seen him doing some of those 5 and 10 yard digs that we preached about on Wednesday. That's where he wants to be. Let's see if we can get him to be there, and it worked out great for him.
Yeah.
So
Between the wide receivers, so you had Deshaun Hamilton, you had Tim Patrick, you had Jerry Judy, and you had KJ Hamler, all with targets. Between them, there were a total of 13 targets, and they were distributed well. Tim Patrick had 5, Judy had 4, Hamler had 3, and Deshaun had 1. So I mean, it looked like he was evenly involved. The running backs and the tight end group, I mean, were the big benefactors of the game plan today.
yeah,
And they did a
they
good
got the
job.
yardage. Yeah, they
Yeah.
highlighted in the yardage except for the 2 chunk plays by Judy and Hamler, or the couple chunk plays by Judy and Hamler.
Right.
But that's what built this success. That those tight ends and those backs are what set up the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Him hitting those chunk yards really just kept the ball moving. It was about momentum. It was
And
about
right.
all momentum.
Well, and I think if you do that and you keep hitting these passes, with your running backs and your tight ends, either out in the flat or over in the middle, short routes, that's going to draw that safety up, because they're going to get used to it. He's eventually going to start drawing up a little bit more, almost like it's an extension of the running game and drawing them in. And then that leaves that open, like you said, for Hamler to make that deep route, and with no over the top help, and Douglas just
we highlighted Douglas in the pregame. He was the cornerback you had to exploit. The guy's naturally a safety. He lacks the speed to be a significant, a significant threat in as a cornerback. Similar to how we had issues with Will Parks across the middle later in the game. They just don't have the natural ability and the quickness to stay with the receivers across the middle or on the deep route. We've seen Hamler just burn him. Hamler said it in the post game conference on 850 KOA. I just put my head down and I ran as fast as I could, and I looked up, the ball was there.
Right.
That's exactly what he said. He's like,
yeah.
I knew I was faster than him, and I knew I could outrun him.
Yep. So and a well thrown ball and a great route to catch it. So Tolliver went down again today as well. So Dawson went down. Tolliver went down. Have you heard any updates on Tolliver? I think Dawson might be done for the year with a knee. I haven't heard the extent of it yet.
Do you mean Dawson, right? Not Dawson.
Right. No,
okay.
Duke Dawson.
Yeah, okay. Because I was like,
right.
Dawson, I didn't see him go down. Okay, yeah.
No, Duke Dawson, went down with an apparent knee injury. I'm not sure. It looked like a knee with Tolliver, but I'm not 100% sure. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, that's what it looked like for Tolliver, was a knee as well. The one thing, he was able to get up and walk off on his own power. Maybe it's, maybe hopefully it's just a minor sprain or maybe just a hyperextension and he'll be okay. They're probably going to have to look at it a little bit more. Duke Dawson, it's non-contact. It's probably, he's probably
Yeah,
done.
yeah, it
It
didn't
looks like
look
an
good.
ACL.
Just the way that knee gave out on him did not look good. So he went playing his
Yeah,
first cut. Yeah,
non-contact injuries almost always guarantee a tear. So
right. So hopefully
yeah,
he is okay and get surgery and rehabs well if that's what it is, if that's what it requires. So
yeah, we just keep
uh,
getting thinner and thinner in that
we
cornerback
definitely do, and like you said, now we have no natural slot corner on the thing, and Josh Allen's coming to town next week.
Yeah, and Stephon Diggs thrives in the slot, so we're
Right,
gonna have we're gonna have to figure it out quick. I don't know. We also did get the Hairston kid from Baltimore. I
right.
have not had a chance to really check him out too much. He was a starting cornerback in Indianapolis last season, but
Hmm.
from what I seen in just the brief highlight tape I watched on him, he was mostly lining up as an outside corner.
Right.
Um, Bosby could potentially move inside if that's the route they wanted to go. He's he's the smaller of the corners. Typically, your
Right.
slot corners are they lack that huge physical stature. They're
Right.
typically 6 foot under, about a buck 85. Um, just better for the hips and footwork that they need. That lateral quickness that position requires. It just
Yeah.
as a physical standpoint, it's better.
Yeah. And we'll definitely we'll definitely see the Broncos are going to have to do some juggling around in the secondary. And the bad thing is, even going out and picking someone up, they're not going to be available to you next week because they have to go through the whole COVID protocol.
Yeah, yeah.
So it doesn't look like much help is on the way. I don't know who we have cornerback wise stashed on our practice squad. So,
I could take a peek for us real quick.
but some guys might be getting a phone call, or they may have already got a phone call said, "Hey, start getting ready." So, uh, this is my brother Sean. I guess just got home from shooting photos at Estes, Rocky, and Clueless. Did we win? We did win 32-27. Locke had an outstanding game, 21-27, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He did have the fumble, but we won't blame that all on him. We'll blame that mostly on Cush. So, but I can't blame Cush too much because I'm a huge Cush supporter. I know there's a lot of people probably know this. I'm a huge LSU fan. So when we drafted Cush, I was excited. And so hopefully Santa Claus is bringing me a Cushenberry jersey. That's what I've asked for. So if you're listening, Santa Claus, make sure you get that 79 jersey.
Yeah, and it was just a mental lapse. He didn't. It was
Right.
just like we talked about it at halftime. It was a good play call, delayed blitz, straight up the gap. He just left home and he just didn't. He just couldn't get over quick enough.
Right. Oh, we got
That's my quarterback.
Terrell Owens going on us, So, hey, it's fun. It's fun doing these shows after we win, so we don't have to sit here and talk so negative about the Broncos and everything. We don't like talking negative about the Broncos, but we're not going to sugarcoat things either. If there's problems, there's problems, and that's what we want to do is we want to give our viewers and our readers, accurate information.
I think Drew got the memo. I think he think that's maybe something that we've seen today. I think he got that memo that if I don't shape it up, there's going to be a vet out there. Or he's seen Kyle Trask struggle yesterday. Kyle Trask is always that's like his dream quarterback.
Yeah, and Trask.
He's seen him kind of just suck it terribly yesterday. And
especially in the first half, he was bad. In the second half, he came back, but LSU was down there 3 starting cornerbacks. Sounds like the Broncos almost. But Trask struggled. And
he maximized his opportunity. He's seen that the potential guy that could replace him had a bad day, came out and said, "I'm going to ball it up and see where this takes me."
And he definitely did. I mean, he had a great game. Lindsey, let's talk about Lindsey. 11 carries, 24 yards, 2.2 yard average. Are they not utilizing him correct in the run game?
I don't know. Just something seems off of Phil the last couple weeks since he hurt his leg. Since he hurt his knee, I'm sorry, excuse me. He just seems off. Today we seen a little bit, like I keep mentioning his natural stutter step that he does at the line of
Mhm.
scrimmage, because that it helps him determine which hole he wants to go to. We're not seeing that the last couple of weeks. I don't know. It has to be, in my opinion, it has to be his knee, because today we seen him just crash into the back of his alignment again.
Right. And it's like when it first happened, when the injury first happened, they were talking 2-3 weeks, possibly that he's out. And the next thing you know, he's playing the next week. And so is he not 100%? Is it in the back of his mind that, hey, I need to take it easy. I'm going to hurt myself. But he did show a good burst on that one run around the right end where he beat the edge guy, and got to the outside and, picked up 9 yards on it. But other than that, it was run him right into the back of the lineman and
Yeah,
see what he can do. So
he must have some kind of either maybe some inflammation, something that's screwing with that stability. So probably one of MCL, ACL, what is it, PCL, one
right,
of those ligaments might have some inflammation that's just making it feel a little unstable, where he can't do his natural cuts and stutter steps. But I think he's out there because he knows he has to be. I think he's out there because he knows that if Gordon's shining right now, and if I'm not out there, I'm not going to be here. It could be something like that, or I'm not going to get paid to be here.
right,
This is really an audition year for him. This is his first year where he's eligible to leave Denver. Denver technically still owns his right, as he's an RFA. But this is kind of where his audition starts for other teams. And if he's not out there, then he's not making a case for himself to get that money, which, we've already talked about time and time again. Running backs really don't get paid unless they're in the top 5 of the market. So
right.
I think he's out there because he feels that he has to be. And I think, Phil, I think that's the wrong move, man. If you're not healthy, set it out.
Yep.
You got all next season. All next season.
Melvin Gordon, another, good effort, 13 carries, 68 yards, 5.2 yard average.
Just the physicality is what it was.
Boy, he almost broke that one.
Yeah.
That guy just tripped him up. In other words, that's a long touchdown. So his long today was 15 yards, but it could have been a lot longer if, he just gets over that guy's outstretched hand.
Yeah, he didn't have, necessarily the greatest stat sheet today, but it's just the physicality he's playing with. It seems like a switch is just turned on for him, and he's out there he's out there, putting the shoulder down, doing whatever he can do, 2 hands on the ball.
Right.
It's just the momentum that he's bringing to the team. Just the physicality.
Yeah, and we'll have to watch this shoulder, and see what they say about it. Fangio mentioned it, briefly, because the question was asked, why is Philip Lindsay in the game when you got the ball on your own 6-yard line? Why are you trying to run the ball up the middle with Philip Lindsay? Why is Melvin Gordon? And that's when he said, one, that's really Curtis's, call as the running backs coach who's going in. And 2, he did mention that he banged up his shoulder, so maybe that was it. Maybe they were just trying to trying to keep him safe for the stretch run. So got a comment from Scott Cole. So any Avs fans out there will like this. Scott missed part of the show. He was publishing a podcast.
I think he meant to say recording and publishing.
Right. I think so too. Recording and publishing his podcast. So everybody, let me put the info up. We do have a Colorado Avalanche podcast. Go to Anchor or Spotify and you can get it. It is Rocky Mountain Sports Report. Colorado Avalanche is what it's called. So go out there. You can listen to Scott's podcast. Scott's goal is to bring one a week, I believe.
I believe he's shooting for Tuesdays. Yeah.
To release them. So we also have the Nuggets, who played their first preseason game yesterday with the 107-105 loss.
It's Golden State.
Right. So, and hopefully they will be coming out with some podcasts for that as well. All of the shows that we do here, all of our live streams for the Broncos, we turn them into podcasts and we post them out there. And I think when the off season rolls around, Matt and I will be doing a little bit more podcasting. we'll be doing like position things and needs and things like that. Just getting us ready for free agency and for the draft. So, but everybody that's out there, hey, tell us what you thought about the game today. What were the good things you saw? What were things we still need to work on? What are areas that you think we're going to have to improve our team in the off season? And I think the number one need is going to be our secondary. Matt, do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's definitely that and right tackle are my biggest concerns right now. Just highlighting secondary, it's just solidifying that depth.
Right.
And the potential loss of Justin Simmons. The more as this season goes along, the more apparent it seems to be that we can't afford to lose Justin Simmons.
No, we cannot.
That's what it's starting to feel like. And we posed the question in the pregame today. It honestly may truly come down to, do we want Von Miller or do we want Justin Simmons? And I think we all on a consistent with Justin Simmons.
Yeah, and I agree. That's what's best for the Broncos moving forward. And I know fans don't like it. 58 has been huge here in Denver. He's been a fan favorite. But it's business. And you can't keep guys around just because you like them.
Just because you're loyal. The NFL is not a loyalty game.
It is not. It is not loyal at all. So it is. The writing is on the wall that Von Miller's probably going to be gone. So got another comment from Scott. He loved the short and intermediate game. The defense pulled in and allowed Hamler to shine. And I agree. That did pull up the defense, sort of like we talked about. You keep hitting those short and intermediates, that safety's going to creep up. Just out of habit, he's going to say, they're going to throw it under there. I'm going to creep up and help. And then next thing you know, bam, you hit him on the big one.
Yeah, it's all about assignments. So it either creeps him up and puts him out of position for the zone across the middle, or if they're playing one-on-one, especially with our speed with Judy and Hamler, and even Deshaun Hamilton, he's got some wheels on him. He's kind of he's on the low lights lately, but yeah, they're gonna beat guys one-on-one over the top time and time again. Sutton can even do it. The guys, they're just too physical to be left one-on-one.
Yeah, and Judy does appear to be content with.
Yeah, it's the W. It's all about the win.
And the W does help,
Yeah, I think
when you're winning, things like this don't pop up on social media. When you go out and you lose a game, that's when you're frustrated and you don't think sometimes, and you just pop something out there. And we talked about it with Coach Cisneros the other day. Don't throw it out there, because somebody's going to screen capture it before you get a chance to take it down. So
yeah, Coach Joss also mentioned it's a 24-hour game. A lot of frustrations and emotions happen after a loss and even a win. I was going to say, maybe McManus, we're going to have to sit McManus down now and give him a talking to.
Hey,
he seems to be posting tweets after a win.
Well, at least he's making fun of himself, though.
Yeah, I'm just giving him trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if it was the holds or if McManus just had a bad day or what. He didn't seem, too upset with Sam Martin when he missed him. So
he just told him.
So
it happens. No one's perfect.
And that's why they moved the PATs back so they're 35-yard attempts. So they're not automatic anymore, because everyone's like, why are we even rushing out there and kicking these things? Because everybody's going to make them. At least at 35%, and I'd like to see the percentage, since they moved it back to 35 yards. I mean, what's the make percentage on?
Yeah,
I'm sure it's still in the 90s, but
I think it was high 80s last time I seen it, but that was a few months ago. It was like 88%, something like that.
And it adds a little more excitement to the game, I know, as fans, sometimes it upsets us, and I'm sure it does coaches too, because now you just lost a point, and is that going to come back? Is that going to hurt you? And then it forces you to make a decision. Well, I got a point up there. Nope, I'm going to take it off the board, and I'm going to try for another one now, and things like that. So I'm even happy to say that I don't even have any coaching blunders to bring up against Vic Death by Inches Fangio.
Yeah, he did. It was a consistent and fluid game from top to bottom for the Broncos.
Right. The only thing I would even hint to say anything about is you never take points off the board. But you know what? They put the ball on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, it was right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like we kicked a field goal, and we took it off and tried to pick up a 4th and 1 or something afterwards. So
Yeah, and momentum was on our side at the time. It
yeah,
was to the point where this would just push it out to be a little bit more challenging for Carolina to come back. I mean, I don't really have any issues with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I do want to call out Carolina's Matt Rule. I don't know what the heck you were thinking, man. Towards the end of the game, you had some terrible coaching decisions there. I don't understand why they wasted their timeouts at the 3-minute mark right there when they
I,
were on the station.
I didn't understand that either.
Yeah, I don't grasp it. Not only are you putting yourself at risk, let's say it worked in your favor and you put the points on the board, but now you're potentially giving the Broncos a 2-minute warning and 3 timeouts, essentially being able to stop the clock 4 times to put the game away with what would have been only a field goal to win the game. So I don't know. That was just odd play coaching on his part. So
So
thanks, Coach Rule. Thank you.
hey, I know you're looking at scouring the free agent market for a quarterback.
Oh God,
Um,
no.
it looks like Carson Wentz might be available. Philadelphia is all over New Orleans, 17-0.
Jalen Hurts is killing it then.
Yeah, and I'm sure he is, and I'm sure that and Carson was not happy about it. And he let everybody know he was not happy about being benched.
Yeah.
He thinks he deserves that job, but if you're not producing, you're not going to get the job.
Yeah, I get. I mean, I understand his frustrations, sure, but dude, you're playing terrible. Your injuries have defined your career. Denver, do not touch that with a 20-foot pole, please. It's not worth the money. It's
No,
not.
it's not. And
He's a
the
great quarterback. He has all the talent in the world, but he can't stay healthy. He's not a scheme fit for us. Stay away.
hey, can we make that one of the key words on our group that Facebook will pick up and block the post is Wentz.
Wentz retired.
So
No.
anybody who throws out on our group page that they want Wentz to come in here as the free agent, we may have to have a talk about you.
Yeah,
Staying in our
Philadelphia is
group
backed
or
themselves
not.
into a corner with that. Even so there's no way they could actually cut him. It would be crippling. They'd be like negative $40 million in cap space. So
Right.
it's virtually unrealistic to even see any moves for him happen this season. I think there's some potential that it could be at the end of the 2021 season, but it's looking more likely they'll actually have to hold on to him through 2022 to actually be able to cut him and or move him without the other team being willing to take on a gigantic part of the dead cap.
Yep. And this is a good point here from Scott. Injuries and interceptions to mention Foles did most of the work in getting Eagles into the Super Bowl, and that is true. I mean, and I feel bad for Carson Wentz. He had a lot of promise, but you got to take advantage of what you're given, and when you get hurt, not much you can do about that. But when you get the opportunity, you need to play well, and he just hasn't played well.
No.
And that whole Philadelphia team, but they seem to be revitalized with Jalen Hurts, and we know how that always works. You get the new guy in, everybody gets pumped up.
There's no tape. That's all I'll say. Drew Lock. It's literally a mimic of Drew Lock. I wouldn't be surprised to see him win 4 games and
here we go again.
Be named the savior of Philadelphia. But you know what? I'll give Drew his kudos today. He played a great game.
All right.
He plays like this next week. He plays like this next week, and he can finish out the season strong. Like I think we both talked about it if he deserves another year. I told you I don't think he does, but he'll get one. I think that if he can play solid football, he'll get that other season. And it could prove us all wrong, but with that fluidity.
Would you say deservedly then, if he finishes strong? Because you're saying right now he's going to get it anyway.
I think he's going to get it. Well, and it comes down to two things. Yeah, it comes down to two things.
Now I'm going to say, if he plays well the rest of the year, is he going to deserve that third year?
If he finishes out the season, if he could, we have 3 games left?
Yes.
If he could pull 2 out of 3, I'd say he deserves it.
You know what? And at this point, Matt, it's like I told my wife watching me. I don't care about the wins right now because we're not going to the playoffs.
It's just about growth.
Right. Wins help. They build morale and stuff like that. But if we're seeing improvement, If we would have lost that game to Carolina, let's say they came back and they scored a touchdown at the end and they beat us 34-32 or whatever.
Yeah,
No,
whatever it would have been.
yeah, whatever it would have been. I wouldn't have been too upset because of what we saw from Drew Lock in the offense.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. Our secondary was just battered, and it wouldn't have upset me if we just couldn't have held up at the end and Teddy Bridgewater just picked us apart, sort of like Alex had said that he has the potential of doing. So
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. Like you said, that would have been more on the defense than Drew for sure. But
and that's what I want to see the rest of the year. So even if we lose these next 3 games, but they're close games and Drew Lock plays well, then you can't blame it all on Lock, and at that point we say, yeah, let's give him another look. I mean, wins are going to make it even easier to say, let's give him,
Yeah.
So,
the only way I see Drew Lock not making it, being the quarterback next season, is if he completely bombs out the next 3 games and Matthew Stafford becomes available. But at the same time, I don't understand why we would invest in that. You're going to get it's practically going to be the same production level. It really would be, in my opinion.
And if we're worried about how are we going to afford Justin Simmons, then we definitely don't need to be in the supermarket shopping for Matt Stafford or Matt Ryan or anybody else. So
it's really not worth it. That's why I think Drew Lock needs to be here next season to establish those pieces.
And that's why he will be here, because we can't afford anybody else. Unless it's the Sam Darnold or someone like that you talk
that would be the only logical quarterback that's going to be available, potentially available this offseason. Only way right now that I see Drew Lock being replaced by a quarterback in the draft would be if Trask somehow falls to the 3rd, which I don't think it'll happen, but it could. I think even the 2nd round's too big of a reach for him. For me, I wouldn't touch him at all. He just has too many flaws.
He does, and he's not that experienced. And
so if he falls to the 3rd round, it becomes a question: is it worth? Is his raw talent worth the risk at round 3 if he's there? Other one, Kellen Mond, another one, raw talent. If he's there, do we take him? Drew Lock would start off the season, but at least he'll know that there's a quarterback that they've invested in that's behind him that's here to make a name for him.
And I'm under my belief is you should always draft a quarterback
every year.
3rd round or later, usually. 1st or 2nd round guy, you're usually investing in that guy to come in and be your starter. 3rd round of stuff, that's more for depth, and maybe you will find
that's where you find your Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson.
Yeah, a Tom Brady or someone like that, who falls all the way to the 6th round,
Kellen Mond's a name to watch.
I agree. There. And another one I like is Ian Book out of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And the guy gets no
pressure. He's a sneaky one, man. He's got his arm is ridiculous. He has really good footwork too. A lot of his stuff that we're seeing is these like weird mental mistakes.
Right.
I haven't watched enough tape on him to give like a very good projection on what I think he is. But right now, last draft I seen him, he's sitting in the 3 to 5 ranges where some of these other places have him. If he's there in the 4th, he fits Elway's bit. He's a big guy. I think. Right. Is he 6'4"? Is he 6'5"? I don't know. He's pretty big. That's all I know.
6'4", 6'5", and he is, and he's rough around the edges. Yeah, he's rough around the edges, but maybe someone you do grab if he's sitting there. And we'll find out more about him this Saturday.
One other potential name to keep an eye on. Dak, I don't think he'll be here. I don't think it's a Bronco thing, but we also have to remember Dak Prescott's playing on the franchise tag. He was playing lights out before it, but now he's coming off a major injury. How much do the Cowboys really want to invest into a quarterback that's coming off an injury and demanding $100 million contract? Are they going to take the risk, or are they going to invest in a rookie quarterback?
And that's true.
Dak Prescott on the open market is going to be hard for LA to stay away from.
But we can't afford that.
They'll make ways. I've seen Howie Roseman out in Philadelphia. So just the quick thing on how quick before we hop off, because I know we're getting close to that hour mark. Howie Roseman going into last offseason was projected to have negative $27 million. And he found a way to create $60 million in order to and retain his free agents. So if Howie Roseman could do it, I don't know. Can Elway?
It can be done. So and
Stay away from it though, Elway. Yeah. I don't know if Locke's the answer. It's too early for me to say it. I don't feel comfortable with him being the long-term answer, but he could prove me wrong. He has the time to do it. If I'm Elway, please don't make a rash decision and invest in a quarterback that's past his prime.
Right. So
bring in some competition in the right way through the draft.
Yeah. And that's what I say. Let's not go chasing the shiny new toy. Let's build this thing organically. Scott, bring up.
Invest in the Nissan Sentra.
Right.
Brand new Nissan Sentra.
The Escalade or the Maserati or anything.
Yeah, let's get that third or fourth round quarterback and see if we could super up.
Really
the Honda Civics.
Yeah. Really quick before we get out of here, the game is Saturday this week.
Yes.
Which I'm shocked the NFL hasn't moved these Saturday games because it's championship week in college football. You got the Pac-12 championship, you got the ACC championship, you got the SEC championship, you got the Big Ten championship. I'm surprised that NCAA hasn't come to them and said, you got to roll these games back to Sunday. So I don't think it's going to happen now, and I don't think it will happen. But I'm just surprised with COVID and everything. The NFL didn't look at this whole thing and say, hey, let's move these games off of this because we're probably going to lose. I would say the NFL is going to lose a lot of viewers, because you got some good college football games coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, they'll have to find a way to. I don't know. They're not going to maneuver it. It's too late for them to make any changes now. But I mean,
they're getting good at it. The way they've been bouncing games around all year, they may say, "Hey, why didn't we think of this? Let's move them to Sunday." So, they've been moving games around because of COVID, so it's easy to move.
I mean, they could. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure, but I mean, CBS and Fox and all these other major places are NFL's, going to pay more, so they're going to go and they're going to stream those games too. So I don't know.
Well, and I think CBS doesn't care anymore either. They lost the SEC contract starting in 2024 to ESPN, so maybe CBS say, we don't care. We'll air NFL over college football.
Yeah,
so, which is weird because the SEC usually plays on CBS. So
yeah,
I'm not sure when the SEC championship is going to be, or if it's going to be on ESPN. I have no idea. So, but it's just interesting that this whole thing. So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining us after a Bronco win. Matt and I believe Scott, and maybe Alex will sort of confirm on. We got Warm Room Wednesday coming up on Wednesday, 6:30.
Yeah.
We'll definitely talk Bronco stuff. Anything else you guys want us to talk about? Shoot us, a message me, message Matt, Scott, Alex, any of us, let us know ideas of what you would like us to talk about. And we know people don't want us to beat Drew Lock anymore, so we won't do that Wednesday.
Yeah. Hey, and I got a little bit of some breaking Rocky Mountain Sports Report news for us.
Okay.
So we are working on establishing a confirmed date for assistant coach at Valor Christian High School. They just played in the 5A state championship last week. Coach Gary Pacheco said he has agreed to an interview. He got it all cleared out through his administration. So we're going to be working on trying to get him on that Wednesday show, Dave.
That'll be awesome. That'll be fun. So everybody tune in, and shoot your questions to the coach. So, and hopefully Scott will have more hockey news, and then we'll have NBA news too. So, but we'll firm up the lineup. We'll get it out to you guys, and we'll have a show Wednesday at 6:30, and then we got pregame will be Saturday of next week. So things will get juggled around a little bit. But again, thanks for everybody. It's been a good day, Matt, hanging out with you today. 3 shows today. It's time to take a break to watch football the rest of the day. And everybody out there, thanks for spending your time with us and checking in with us. Everybody enjoy the Bronco victory, and we'll get ready for the Bills now.
Let's go. Good job, Broncos, and thanks for watching us, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right, bye.